They told us it would be a standard rotation, 8 hours of maintenance, a full mission scan, then back to the shuttle. Nobody mentioned the part where the crew started disappearing. We lost 3 people in the last shift. First, Red went in the warehouse, the vent behind him open, as if the person who did this wanted us to see the method. Then Lime. He was the only one who dared to say Black's name out loud, and that's what killed him. Not the imposter, his own honesty. And then there was Black. We eliminated him by 5 votes. We were so sure. The screen showed us what we were doing before the hatch even closed. Black wasn't the imposter. Now we're down to 7. I keep doing the math. 3 people gone in 1 shift, 1 imposter. That means the kill rate was either sped up or deliberately slowed down. Both are terrible for completely different reasons. Here's what I know going into this shift. White has a recording he hasn't played for anyone yet. Green saw something in Chapter 1 and hasn't mentioned it at all. And Purple? Purple walked out of the last meeting without a scratch, without voting, without even raising his voice. He offered a self-justifying excuse. He pointed us out to Black. He watched us pull the lever. And this morning, as I walked past him in the hallway, he tilted his hat slightly. Just slightly. As if we had some kind of agreement. There wasn't. But I think that's exactly what he wants me to believe. Black was gone, and I kept replaying it. The way Purple tilted his hat when the hatch closed. Just slightly. Like a small private satisfaction. I told myself it meant nothing. I was wrong about that. Last time, Red was killed near storage. Lime accused Black, then Lime was killed. We voted Black out on a 5-vote majority. The screen said it. Black was not the imposter. 7 of us left. 1 of them is still here. 7 crewmates. Me, Purple, Cyan, Yellow, Green, White, and Orange, who had barely said a word the entire first shift. Orange was the kind of person you forget is in the room. I was starting to wonder if that was intentional. Nobody wanted to split up for tasks, but tasks don't complete themselves on MIRA HQ. The oxygen filters degrade, the wiring corrodes. You can mourn later. The station doesn't care. White hadn't put her microphone down since we found Red. She was still recording. I walked past her in the corridor and she held the mic toward me like an invitation. I kept walking. Whatever she was building, I wasn't ready to be part of it. Cyan was the one I was most worried about. He and Lime had worked together the whole first shift. Now she was dead and he was carrying that sombrero like it weighed something extra. He hadn't laughed once. That was the clearest sign something was broken. Green had moved her gun from her hip to her hand. Not raised, just held. Ready. Nobody said anything about it. What were you going to say? Put the gun away? In a station with an active killer? Green was the only one being honest about what this situation actually was. And then there was Purple. Back at his admin station. Logs open. Door controls active. He had everything he'd had before. Information, position, access. The ejection of Black had cost him nothing. If anything, he looked more comfortable than ever. It was Yellow who told me. She pulled me into the medbay about 40 minutes into the shift, and she was talking fast. That sign I'd learned to read. Something had happened, or something was about to. White has recordings from before the oxygen alarm. She captured something in the lab corridor, and she hasn't told anyone what's on it yet. I stood there for a second. Recordings. Before the oxygen alarm. That was right before Lime was killed. I found White in the cafeteria. She was sitting at the far end of the table, microphone on the surface in front of her, not recording for once. Just sitting. That was more alarming than the microphone. I recorded something at 14:32, in the lab corridor. 7 seconds. I've listened to it 11 times, and I still don't want it to mean what I think it means. 7 seconds. 11 listens. White didn't scare easily. Whatever was on that recording had scared her. Play it? She didn't. Not yet. She picked up the microphone, held it, and then set it back down. She said, "If I play it here, anyone could walk in." She was right, so we waited. Purple walked past the cafeteria entrance while we were sitting there. He didn't stop. He didn't look in. He just walked past, but slowly. The way you walk when you want to see without being seen seeing. Tonight, medbay, after tasks. Just you and me. I nodded. And then I spent the next 4 hours pretending to do tasks while actually doing one thing, watching Purple. Purple went to admin, then to the lab, then back to admin. 3 loops in 2 hours. That's not task completion. That's a patrol. He was checking something or making sure something stayed a certain way. Green found me on my 3rd pass through the reactor hallway. She stepped directly into my path, gun at her side, and said 4 words that rearranged my understanding of everything. I saw Purple vent. Episode 1. Storage room right after the oxygen fix. I didn't say anything because I didn't think anyone would believe me over his alibi. I'm saying it now. The world went very still. The ventilation hum felt louder. Green didn't flinch. She wasn't asking for a reaction. She was filing a report. Why are you telling me this now? Green looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, because White is about to play something at Medbay tonight, and I want you to know what you're listening for before you hear it. She already knew about the Medbay meeting, which meant Yellow had told someone else, or Green had been listening closer than any of us realized. Either way, a network was forming. Quiet. Unannounced. Against Purple. The comms went down at 16 psi. Clean cut. Not a gradual degradation, a deliberate kill. All external signal gone, which meant no logs leaving MIRA HQ. No record of what had happened here reaching anyone outside. The timing was not accidental. Tyann was already at the comms panel when I arrived. He looked at me with that hollow expression he'd been wearing since Lyme and said, someone doesn't want us calling for help. That was the most words he'd said in 2 hours. I keep thinking about what Lyme said, about Black near the vent. She was right, and she died for it. And we're still here pretending we don't know. I didn't say anything, because he wasn't wrong, and because saying it out loud in the comms room felt like painting a target. We restored comms in 12 minutes. Tyann knew the panel, knew it better than anyone. His hands didn't shake once. I remember thinking, grief and competence aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes the most destroyed person in the room is also the most capable. Orange was waiting outside the comms room when we came out, just standing there, arms at sides. No explanation for being there, no task that needed doing in that corridor. He said, everything okay? Like he already knew the answer. I'd barely registered Orange as a person before that moment. Plain suit, no hat, no accessories, no history in the group. He'd been here the whole time, and I couldn't recall a single thing he'd said in episode 1. That's either innocence or the most sophisticated camouflage I'd ever seen. At 17:20, Purple called a non-emergency group check-in. Not a meeting, just a request over the intercom for everyone to report their location. Voluntary. But the way he phrased it made refusal feel like an admission. Given what happened to Black, and I want to be clear, that outcome was a tragedy. I think we owe it to the remaining crew to maintain accountability. Location check every 30 minutes. Voluntary, of course. Voluntary, of course. In a station where 2 people are dead and 1 is missing. Sure, voluntary. Green's response to the intercom check came 3 seconds after Purple finished speaking. She said, reactor hallway, then added, and I'm armed. Which wasn't a location report, it was a message. Yellow reported from Medbay. Her voice was tight. You could hear it even through the intercom static. She'd been in Medbay alone for 40 minutes. I'd forgotten about her. That scared me almost as much as everything else. I counted again. 7 reporting in. 7 locations. But the intercom doesn't tell you who's lying about where they are. It just tells you what they want you to believe. After the final task sweep, the station entered low power mode. Corridor lights dimmed to 30%, the kind of dark where shapes stop being reassuring. White was already in Medbay when I arrived. So was Green, and Tyann. I hadn't expected an audience. They needed to hear it too. I'm not keeping this private anymore. She held the microphone up. Pressed play. 7 seconds of audio filled the Medbay. What we heard: footsteps, fast ones, then a vent panel, then silence, then, very faint, almost below hearing, a sound like someone adjusting something. Fabric, maybe, or a hat brim. That last sound, that's a hat, a specific kind of hat. A tall one with a stiff brim that makes that exact sound when you tilt it. Nobody moved. Cyan looked at the floor. Yellow wasn't in the room, which I only noticed right then. Yellow wasn't there. I stepped into the corridor. Empty. I checked Medbay's adjacent hall. Empty. Yellow had been in Medbay less than 2 hours ago for the location check. Now she was gone and nobody had seen her leave. We split. Green took the reactor wing. Cyan took the lab. I went toward admin, toward purple. White stayed at Medbay in case Yellow came back. Nobody said what we were all thinking. Purple was at his station when I reached admin. Logs open, expression unchanged. I stood in the doorway and he looked up and said, "Looking for something?" And I said, "Yellow." And he said, "She was here 20 minutes ago." She wanted to see the door logs, said she was trying to reconstruct Lime's last movements. I showed her what I had. She left satisfied. Satisfied. He used that word. About someone who had just been shown information about a dead crewmate's last movements. I wrote it down in my head next to all the other words he'd chosen too carefully. Cyan found her. Lab sector, east corridor. Same position as Red. Same position as Lime. Near a vent access panel. The panel was closed this time, which was worse somehow. Closed meant deliberate. Closed meant calm. The propeller on her beanie was still spinning. The ventilation current from the corridor kept it moving. I stared at that for longer than I should have. A dead crewmate with a spinning hat. The station, carrying on. Emergency meeting. 6 of us this time. Red gone. Lime gone. Black gone. Yellow gone. 6 crewmates in the cafeteria and a recording on a microphone and one name that everyone was circling without landing on. I have a recording from 1432, lab corridor, before Lime was killed. I want everyone to hear it. Purple's posture didn't change. That was the tell. When White said 1432, everyone else reacted, leaned in, looked up, shifted. Purple didn't move a millimeter. She played it, 7 seconds. Footsteps, vent, silence, the hat sound. And then the room was very quiet for a very long time. That could be anyone. You're asking us to identify someone by an ambient sound from a recording with no visual confirmation. That's not evidence. That's wishful thinking with audio. Brilliant. He addressed the weakest point of the evidence before anyone else could raise it. He'd already processed it and prepared. Nobody prepares that fast unless they knew it was coming. I have visual confirmation. I saw you vent in storage. Episode 1. I stayed quiet because nobody would have believed me. I'm done staying quiet. The room changed again. The way rooms kept changing every time someone said something that couldn't be unsaid. A claim you chose to hold for an entire episode. No corroboration, no timestamp. While we ejected an innocent crewmate based on evidence you helped shape, or didn't contradict. He turned it. Turned Green's silence in episode 1 into complicity, into guilt, in 3 sentences. I felt the room wobble, and then Orange spoke. For the first time in 2 episodes. 1 sentence, delivered like he'd been saving it. Yellow went to admin to see the door logs. She came back to Medbay. Then she died before she could tell anyone what she found. Does that feel like a coincidence to anybody else? Nobody had an answer for that, including Purple, which was the first time I'd seen him without one. We voted, 3 on Purple, 1 on Orange, 1 on Green, 1 skip. Not enough, not even close to enough. Purple sat back in his chair and adjusted his hat, and I thought, he's going to walk out of this meeting and we are never going to catch him in a vote. 6 of us. Purple still here. The recording played. Green's testimony on the table. Orange now visible. Suddenly, startlingly visible, after 2 episodes of nothing. Something had shifted. The geometry of the group was different. Ian stopped me in the hallway outside the cafeteria. He was quieter than I'd ever heard him. The sombrero looked too big now, like something borrowed for a personality he didn't quite have anymore. Red, lime, yellow. Every time someone figures something out or says something useful, they die next. You know what that means. Don't be the next one to figure something out. It was the most pragmatic thing anyone had said since this started. Also, the saddest. He was telling me to stay ignorant to stay alive. White found me an hour later. She had something new. She'd gone into admin while Purple was at the meeting. She'd timed it deliberately and pulled a copy of the door log Yellow had been looking at before she died. The log shows the storage vent access panel opened twice during the oxygen sabotage. Once from inside the vent, once from admin. Purple is the only one with admin panel access. Twice. The vent opened twice. Someone entered through the vent. And someone opened it remotely from admin, maybe to cover, maybe to re-enter. Either way, 2 operations. 1 source. We had evidence, real evidence, log data, a recording, an eyewitness, and we just tried to vote and failed. The problem wasn't evidence. The problem was that Purple was better at this than we were. He'd been doing it longer. He'd been planning it before we even boarded. Green came to find me just before lights out. She didn't ask. She told. Next meeting, we go in with everything, simultaneously. The recording, my eyewitness account, the door log, all at once. He can't deflect 3 sources at the same time. She said it like a tactical brief. Maybe it was. I went to sleep, if you can call it that, thinking about Orange. 2 episodes of silence. Then 1 sentence that stopped Purple cold. Either Orange had been waiting for exactly the right moment to speak, or Orange had been waiting to see which way the wind blew before picking a side. Those are very different things. At 006 Yarm, the lights came back up. I did my count before I even got out of the bunk. Mentally. Me, purple, cyan, green, white, orange. 6. All 6 accounted for in my head. All 6 still here. And that meant something had changed overnight. For the first time since MIRA HQ began, the impostor had let someone survive. White put the door log copy inside her microphone case, the only waterproof container she had. "In case something happens to me," she said. And then she looked at me with those quiet eyes and added, "Or in case something happens to you, and I need to prove what you knew." I didn't know how to respond to that. I still don't.